Welcome to Alpha Book Club, bubs. This is our online interactive book club for our Alpha community members. I'm Hector Navarro, and I am so damn tickled to be on this show today. Joining me, as always, are the lovely Rachel Hine and Maud Garrett. Round of applause, everybody on the internet. Come on, come on. It's
Thanks,
Rachel
guys.
and Maud.
Yay! I'm so excited.
So excited because we're about to get into it, but welcome you guys watching in the chat, all of our Alpha guests. So good to see you guys.
Hi.
Plague Wind, a Bucky B, Java Book Geek Girl,
Bucky
lots
B
of numbers.
tweeted me earlier, actually.
You
I
got-
felt special.
Oh, you guys are all there. So we're so excited. I'm so excited. We're so excited because this week we're doing a one-off of the graphic novel Wolverine, Old Man Logan, written by Mark Millar, art by Steve McNevin, and it is one of the all-times. It's
a
so
trip.
great. This is one of my favorite comics ever, and
You wanna
certainly I
calm
think
down.
my favorite Wolverine story. But I'm a huge comic book guy, and you guys have read your share of comics as well.
Yes.
But have you ever had a chance to read Wolverine, Old Man Logan?
No, this was my first time.
This was my first time too, and I've been meaning to, and I've read. I kind of have stuck to standalone graphic novels for the most part because, as we've discussed, and I need to talk to you more seriously about, I get overwhelmed with where to start.
Totally get it.
So
Totally
I
get
know
it.
a lot of the lore. I mean, I knew some of what happened in here, and I end up reading a lot of comic book stories for work and stuff like that. So I know a lot of the canon, but when it comes to like getting into starting something, I feel like I'm a completionist, so I'm like, no, I have to start with Batman #1 and read 5,000 million, so
read whatever's
it's
in
daunting.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel as well did it. We chucked a Hector. We watched the movie. Have you seen the movie?
I haven't been
Forget
to the
it?
movies in a month.
You haven't seen Logan yet?
No, I've been
Oh.
busy for a month. I'm seeing
Oh.
it this weekend. I
can't-
know what
oh, can't wait.
happens.
I can't wait.
I know what happens
I mean,
because it's
sure,
my
Sure, 'cause
yeah.
it's your job.
Yeah.
So
Well, Maud, you pulled
I
a
watched
Hector.
the movie
Yeah.
before I read the book.
Yeah. Did that influence your reading
They're
at all?
not the same. They're not even close.
Yeah.
They don't have the same
I
name.
think
That's all.
there are some thematic elements that are similar. Some.
Bullshit.
But
The
they-
loss of
well,
beloved characters.
Yes,
But
and
like,
we can get into that. Yeah, we get.
already.
I love it. But what is the guys? Fill in our chat in case they are. Look, exactly, Buckabee. I'm so stoked. What is the? Just give us the background. What's the synopsis of this? The premise of Wolverine, Old Man Logan.
Well, this codger, this old guy,
Yep.
he's done. Something bad happened back in the day, which he don't talk about, and he's decided to change his life around. He's met this lovely woman. They've got 2 beautiful kids. He's got a family, and will never ever unsheath the blades again, as far as he's concerned. He just wants his simple life. But it turns out that that's not the case when Hawkeye comes into his life. And then goes, let's go on a road trip. Here's some G's because you can't pay your rent because the Hulks can't stop having sex with each other.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
And you need the cash, and I'm going to make a drop. Let's just do it. And thus, the story begins.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we don't learn about that sort of Hulk side of the story until a little bit later.
It's gross.
It's so
What
gross.
happened?
Yeah, we'll get into it.
You don't want to see me angry, but I'm getting there.
Yes. If you guys aren't familiar with Mark Millar's comic book work, he is the writer-creator of works like Kick-Ass, Kingsman, Wanted, Superman Red Sun, The Ultimates.
Very peaceful stories. Yeah, not a lot of violence.
There's a
in
lot
these.
of violence. There's a lot of
being sarcastic.
FUs to the audience. Literally, the comic book Wanted, if you've never read it, the last page ends with the main character flipping off the reader. So there's a lot of that
that's so
sort
great.
of, that's Mark's style. And yeah, it's big and broad. And he also did this really cool Fantastic Four run. And people don't know this. He also wrote Marvel's Civil War, which inspired Captain America's Civil War, which is great. Again, with the same artist. Him and Steve collaborated on Civil War before they got to Wolverine, Old Man Logan. But Mark was also writing Fantastic Four for Marvel, and this came out, the first issue of this run, a couple of months before Wolverine. And that version of Wolverine, the Old Man Logan version, first appears in this.
Show me.
And in a way, this is a sequel to that.
Show me
If you want to talk, I'll pull it up.
Pull
You
it
want
up.
to talk about the
We have
completest
visual aids now.
visual
Yes,
aids.
pictures.
It's
you
really
wanna-
fun.
Blood.
I didn't
Yeah.
enjoy the imagery at all. I have so many pages more.
There's just a lot of. It looks like they're like swimming in soup. And then I realized it's just their body coming apart.
Swimming in soup.
Limbs.
Oh my gosh.
like-
Great.
If you
I'm
need,
looking-
I've got one just while he waits for this one.
No.
You can punch in there. It's just he's like literally getting punched through his body.
So sad.
It's through his body.
Here is Old Man Logan with this really cool hoodie, this black
like
and
the
yellow
hoodie.
thing. That this was a mystery character that people didn't know who it was, and then it was revealed to be a future version of Logan.
So Snicked is his thing, or is that?
That's the sound of his claws.
Yeah,
When the
but can I
movies
hear it?
have a sound effect of his claws coming out of his fist, that's the sound that they're trying to replicate. And if you're wondering what happens after the end of Wolverine Old Man Logan, and
I sure am.
the sort of the world that Logan goes off with his little baby Hulk,
Yes.
here is that baby grown up.
That's a big boy.
Big boy, big
Oh
Hulk.
my
That's a
God.
So
page.
this is literally kind of like a sequel, or like Mark explores the similar world and stuff, and you kind of find out kind of what happens to this world in this book.
Spoiler.
Highly recommend. Highly recommend. It's fun.
Hold on, that came out. The spoiler of this came out in that.
Right. So
Okay.
this was it kind of. That's kind of the way that they lined up. But anywho's, that's Mark Millar. He is a very prolific writer, and Steve McNiven was fantastic art. So let's get into it. But a great thing about Alpha Book Club is that we can have guests. We can have you guys Skype in and actually talk to us. We have a very special guest today. We've got Plague Wind, aka Caleb, is on the line. Caleb, are you there?
Get out of the chat and into the Skype.
Get out of the chat.
Oh my God, I'm more
if you're
cord
there,
than-
this might not be on. I can't
Into
hear.
my Skype.
Let me double check this thing. Where am I?
Yeah, put it
Oh,
on.
it's behind. Rachel's got it.
Hello.
No, I don't.
I can hear you.
Yes, I
Hello.
do. It's on.
There it
No,
is.
no, that's your.
Hi.
No.
Hi, Caleb.
Hi.
It's just you and me
Thank
for a
you.
second while they figure
Oh.
their
It's
shit
on.
out.
Technical difficulties.
Do you have a
Ah.
bevo? A bevy?
Here we go.
A beverage?
I do off screen, yes.
Yes, nicely
Well done. We're
Caleb.
we're switching it up a little bit this time around. So
I'm
you a
going. I'm going Logan style with whiskey.
guys, he's out.
I love it. We're drinking beer, obviously, instead of wine,
outshining us all.
in honor of Wolverine. But yeah,
You know what? You say it's a beer, but it tastes like a kiss in summer.
yeah. It really
I
does.
need to get a job in
Beer
marketing.
is actually more style.
Yeah.
So I want to know, are you into comics? Are you a bit of a comic book buff?
Yes, I am. I actually have the whole series of Old Man Logan in individual form.
Oh,
Ooh.
love it.
wait.
love it.
I got the first run of this back when it came out, 2008.
Yeah, this was a
Yeah,
great.
that
I
how
was a
long
regular.
it is?
I was a regular haunt at comic book shops.
Awesome.
That's awesome. You can't see Hector, but he's drooling.
No, yeah,
If you
that's
close
so great.
up.
That's so great. Caleb, what is your takeaway when you read Old Man Logan? Or, I mean, how long has it been since you've reread it? This has been kind of a revisit for me, first one in a while. What was your takeaway reading it this time?
Yeah, this is my first reread since it came out. When I first read it, I remember I had read what you brought up before, Wanted, before that, and this is actually, to me, this is the same storyline but Marvel style. Because the Wanted comic book is a bunch of bad guys who kill all the heroes and they rule the world, and that's pretty much the same exact plot as Old Man Logan.
But
Yep.
with superheroes.
I will say this time reading it, it went by a lot quicker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought I needed a couple hours or something. You knocked it out in like 30 minutes. or
Yeah,
something.
No, I-
no, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, half hour. I went through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm not one to sniff daisies though when I'm reading a comic. I don't want to look at every square inch of this thing.
Sure.
I want to get the story
Yeah.
because that's why I'm a book reader.
Yeah. You
So-
determine the pace. And one thing that helped me, having seen the movie Logan, which you haven't seen yet, Rachel,
I know,
is that
I'm
that
so mad
movie
about it.
takes its time with certain scenes. Film determines the pace, and I think there's a lot of scenes where characters are just sitting there talking, and you're kind of, like living in these moments. And I tried to match that pacing when I was rereading Old Man Logan, especially in the beginning, with just the scenes of him and his family. I was really trying to soak it in and breathe it in, and you seemed like you were speeding through it. Yep, got it.
2 kids, you say? Wife?
Yeah.
Great. Yep.
Yeah.
Shit's gonna go down.
Yeah.
Let's
They're
get to
dead.
it. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So Caleb, are you a Wolverine fan? Do you consider this a quintessential Wolverine comic? Where are you in the fandom of this character?
Yes, I say if you're a Wolverine fan, this is a definite read. Yeah, I'm a huge Wolverine fan because the 90s was like my coming of age decade, and as Hector, that was the decade of the anti-heroes.
Mm-hmm. Wolverine in particular, he was on every comic book
And
ever.
Wolverine and Punisher were like the heads of that whole movement.
Yeah.
So yeah, X-Men was my very first like comic book love, and Wolverine was always the standout character for me.
Awesome.
We're just talking about similarities between Wanted. You were saying the same author and this book, but I've just stumbled across another similarity, which is, I can't believe I didn't figure it out before. It's another X-Men character in a movie, Apocalypse may have seen it, where Magneto tries to settle down, has a wife and a child, and they kill the whole family, and he goes apeshit. That's the same.
Yeah.
That's true.
In the X-Men universe alone. It's not even like another storyline that they'd written. It's from a movie that was bad.
They kind of, it was. They kind of pulled, I feel like that happens a lot with, and we're seeing it with the Star Wars expanded universe as well, where they're kind of pulling
Sort of cherry picking
concepts and different things and moving
No
them
such thing
around.
as a new idea in the comic book world, huh?
Oh no.
Okay, good. Just checking.
No. And again, this,
In
I
anything,
mean,
really.
the inspirations to this thing, Mark Miller has said that the inspirations have been stuff like Unforgiven, which was,
It's a Western.
It's a Western.
Yeah.
That in a lot of ways Wolverine was based off of Clint Eastwood type characters and films. So
Yeah, I see it.
comic books, all of comic book history is just heavily influenced by popular culture and movies, especially television. Batman is just Dracula mixed together with Sherlock Holmes, mixed together with, God, there's a bunch of other stuff.
Multiplicity.
What's that?
Multiplicity.
Multiplicity. Michael Keaton's Multiplicity?
That's just because Michael Keaton.
Michael
And also
Keaton,
I
there you go.
love Michael Keaton.
Multiplicity is great. Yeah, Plaguewind, last question for you. Because you're definitely a comic book guy, and you are considering this like a must-read Wolverine story, for anybody watching, for Maude, for Rachel, for myself, what are your top 5 comic recommendations, story-wise, trade paperbacks?
Yeah.
What's your go-to where you're like, you got to read this, you got to read this?
One of my big series, maybe a little surprising, is a Vertigo book, Fables.
Oh, I've heard about Fables.
And that's a great, if you have zero comic book experience, that's a great intro to the whole thing.
Yep.
Isn't that a game?
Saga.
The Wolf Among Us?
Yes.
Saga's
Wolf
another
Among Us,
big
right?
one.
I love
I've
Wolf
heard of
Among Us.
Saga.
Say
I've
that
heard
one,
that's
Saga? Great.
Yeah. Everyone's recommended Saga. Yeah.
The Spawn. I've always been a fan of the Spawn comic book.
Very cool.
Cool.
Is there like a specific Spawn, or should people just look for like a volume 1?
Start with volume 1 when it comes to Spawn.
Cool.
The book was much better for the first 50 issues.
That's 50. That's an
Todd
investment.
McFarlane, yeah.
That's a lot.
He just broke the record for longest independent book, I believe,
That's
with
awesome.
Spawn.
Well, that sounds like the comic kept spawning.
I'm going to go ahead and
did
cheers
have
you for
many
that. That was
spin-offs.
really good. Good job. Really good job on that. Nicely done.
I'm gonna
sorry,
drink
get
more.
some. Was that me or was that you?
I don't know.
Sorry. Okay. Too hard. Great. Well, that's awesome. Well, Caleb, thank you so much for calling, man. This is fantastic. We hope to do more graphic novels in the future. I'm so excited. Oh, I don't know if we just lost you, Caleb, but if we did, thank you so much for calling. You're the best. Thanks for hanging out in the chat
Thanks
every
so
week.
much.
Plaguewind, you're awesome, and thanks for the Rex. We're gonna have to check that stuff out.
Hey, speaking of that chat, we've
Yeah.
got some really great comments coming through.
Yeah.
Lots of Numbers was saying that he was reading Old Man Logan at a coffee shop and had to hide some of the pages that he was reading because it's disgusting. We also had Lost Numbers again saying, can we get a Venom T-Rex spin-off? Can we talk about the fact that they're breeding dinosaurs, because my t-shirt was not an accident.
Oh, very nice. You got little dinos on there. Let's do that. Let's talk about, just to hit the story is obviously inspired by things like Mad Max.
Yes.
This sort of like post-apocalyptic.
Can we talk about, like, in the future?
Yeah.
There's 2 futures.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's the Mad Max future, where everything's gone to shit and
Yep.
you know the resources have been dwindled and it's going more and more, destroyed. Or the flip side of that, which is the futuristic.
Yes.
We're relying on AI, robotics. Everything's
Star
kind
Trek.
of handled for yourself.
Blade Runner
Yeah.
versus Mad Max, and also another sort of Western, but some of the images in this reminded me of what I imagine the Gunslinger to be
Nice.
like as well.
Absolutely, Dark Tower.
But
Dark
yeah,
Tower.
it's super Western. You
Yeah.
have him being pulled back into the game after being out of it for so long,
Yep.
and he's the tough cowboy that you don't want to mess with,
Yep.
and it takes forever for him to bust out his weapon.
Yes.
And then when he does, it's super satisfying.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the world building? Did it work for you, or were you,
I loved the map.
Yeah.
I love how they address
Yes.
the different factions
And that's
of
at that
America.
first issue.
Yeah, I'm really into because you have to fast forward 50, 80, however many years.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what's going on now? And you can see who's survived, who's found power, who had power and lost it, like Magneto.
Yeah.
Who's in control of particular factions, and what the agreement was. And of course, we've got the Hulk town, the Hulk land.
Like all California,
Yeah.
which used to be the Abomination's sector, and the Abomination is a Hulk villain. So
Didn't know that.
it's still filling in. Yeah, the Abomination was a big CG thing in the Hulk movie
Yeah.
with Edward Norton, but it's filling in these blanks of like, okay,
Ah,
50
yeah.
years from now, you know, they have these little clues of what the world is, and to have the things like the map and all these different characters, it fills in that world. You see
Yep.
Giant Man, Pym falls. When there was this huge battle, you see like Loki under a building, also a massive skeleton.
Why was he huge, that big?
Because Loki's the god of mischief. He can make himself huge. And it's just, it's adding this thing of like, we missed a bunch of epic shit.
Yeah.
Is what they're trying to set up.
Yes.
We missed a bunch of I also love Dwight's past. This little black kid who gets Ant-Man's helmet.
Yeah.
And he's just like, give me 75 cents, give me 80 cents. And there's another part of an agreement because Hawkeye pays the money.
Yes.
And Dwight's this like known entity in this world, and none of the, like, you know, no supervillain has taken out this kid. It's like, no, let him make his money. Like,
Yeah.
it's just great little detail of the world.
I think too what I liked, and I think if you're not as familiar with some of the characters, I know that Java Book Geek Girl said this was the second one
Yes.
that she's read, and
Second Marvel comic
she
ever.
didn't.
Wow.
She wasn't super familiar with all of the characters, and
Yeah.
some of them I didn't pick up on right away. I
Yeah.
kind of went back after I finished and tried to pinpoint
Yeah.
a few. But what I really like about it is that it doesn't hold your hand along the way. It shows
Yes.
little snippets of
Yeah, catch up or
like
fuck off.
why was there a building thrown at Loki? Who did that? What was that battle? And it gives you hints of something really fun and epic, but that's far behind us. But it also doesn't feel like, sorry, the gunslinger, where you're like, wait, what happened? So you
Right.
can still figure
Right.
out the basics of it without knowing. You know that there are supervillains. You know that the heroes were destroyed and that something terrible happened to Logan, who can't die and always heals himself. And whatever he went through,
Yeah.
he's gone through so much in his life. What is the thing that broke him?
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that?
What made him want to Komsui? And he did try to Komsui, commit
Yes.
suicide.
Yes.
And that he
Why do you
didn't.
say
He couldn't.
Komsui?
It's just it's shorter. I abbreviate Zevs, you know.
Cool. Yeah, Breves Evs.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's so
can't even
interesting.
end
I
it,
got a
he
buddy
can't.
who was frustrated with the Logan movie because he said that knowing the character from comic book, the Highlander, there can only be one. But question for you
I want
guys,
to die.
in terms of just knowing the Marvel Comics world, because you said Java Book Geek Girl, this is the second Marvel comic
Yes.
that she's
Yes.
read
I've dipped into the Star Wars pool, and that's kind of it when it comes
for
to.
Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So I have been familiar with this world since I was 5, so I don't have the perspective of not knowing as much. Does it work, or is there not enough explanation? 'Cause
I
it
have
seems
questions.
Like you have got questions. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Yeah.
I knew who Osborn City was. I knew that was the Spider-Man villain.
Norman Osborn. Yeah.
Thank you. Don't know.
You're
What,
looking at the map.
yes.
worries.
Sorry if you guys aren't
It's
aware.
great.
This is the map. That
Such a
how it's
great
all split
tease.
into the
Where
different
is that?
divisions. How is Kingpin a threat? It's not the
great
same
question.
Kingpin though. It's a different.
It's not. It's
Kingpin.
not Wilson Fisk. It's this other guy. He almost
Yeah.
looks like. He almost looks like he's modeled. He models himself after Luke Cage.
Wesley
a little bit.
Snipes.
Wesley
from
Snipes.
Blade. Yeah.
But this new Spider Girl character who's Hawkeye's daughter, which is like we'll get into it. We're at a badass. Like she wants to become the next Kingpin. So it seems like the Kingpin might have just been a thing of like whoever can sort of take over the territory, because they mentioned Magneto got old. That's why he was killed.
Yeah.
His previous
Yeah.
Kingpin killed Magneto, and you're like, how can
How?
you kill Magneto? Oh, he must have been like 150 years old.
Yeah.
Like he just got old, basically. So you've got questions. Maud, you felt like you.
I'm Maud.
I'm sorry. No, Rachel, you felt like you had enough background and wanted to go back later?
Yeah,
and-
so I felt like the characters that you need to know along the way that are pretty core to the story, like Kingpin, like knowing
Spider-Girl.
Spider-Girl,
Hawkeye.
knowing the
Hawkeye helps, yeah.
Hawkeye is deeply important. Red Skull and what he's about. Even Osborn City and some of those, or what did I see over here that was one thing really got to me that I will get into in a second. But Kree Haven
What's
is
that?
down there. The Kree from
What's that one?
they're like aliens
Yes.
From what?
They're the blue-skinned aliens
Blue-skinned
that
aliens.
Ronan the Accuser, played by
Yes.
Lee Pace
Yes.
in Guardians of the
Guardians of the
Galaxy, that's that
Galaxy.
alien race. So
Got
they're just
it.
blue aliens.
I'm
Yeah.
in. I'm there.
Yeah.
I was like, are they from Shield? No, because they changed them on Shield because of something.
Oh, but they were on Shield. Kree, they were.
Yeah,
on
they
there.
were, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Coulson pulled out a blue body.
Yeah. So, but then in some of the major scenes with either all of the heroes who are slain, which was devastating when you finally get to how that happens and why and everyone's reactions to that. I was very upset. And all the villains gathering together right before that when they kind of show up and they're like, "Ma ha ha, we're here together."
Why are
I
there
was
so many
trying to
villains?
put together who all of them were.
Sure. And I love it because it's not important. Like, you don't need to know
Yeah.
Claw and Mr. Hyde and Strife and Dr. Octopus.
Oh yes,
and all
I
these,
knew Doc
you know,
Ock.
You know,
Yeah, I
He's
knew
still a
Doc
little bit
Ock.
tubby.
Yeah,
which I love.
exactly. Yeah.
That's how I knew it was him. I'm like,
Yeah.
who's that?
Yeah.
But to answer your question, Maud, there's so many villains because that's comic books. Because it's after decades of doing these same sort of cyclical stories, there's always one hero or a team of heroes in a comic book series, and they have to keep creating new villains. So as it ends up, each hero has a villain's roster. Each team has a villain's roster, you know, different, like just very, like one of the characters said, how many bad guys is there for every good guy? 20? 30, 40, 50? We just crunched the numbers.
Yeah.
We just got together. We're going to do it in one night.
They've
We're just
got a
going to take you
huge
guys out.
rogues gallery of
brilliant,
villains,
yeah.
right? Batman has hundreds of them.
Dozens, hundreds.
What would
yeah,
you be like
yeah.
if you suddenly had powers?
I would rob banks.
There it is. You evil SOB.
It's not evil. Banks are evil.
Oh. See?
Don't
There
tell
is-
me.
It's
Yep.
all grey. It's all grey.
I would absolutely help people, but I would also absolutely rob banks all the time. All the time. Oh,
I
Wells
wanna be like
Fargo, you're contributing to the pipeline? Nah, I'm going to take billions from Wells Fargo. I'm going to clean you out.
We should get into this. I want to bring up a fun moment, but the Red Skull's trophy room was an Easter egg heaven, so
Yep.
we should go. That was true. But one of the things that really got me that I thought was really effective pacing of this is showing Hammer Falls on the map or Pym's Crossing.
Yeah, on the map.
And then when you see them, it's devastating.
Yeah.
Hammer Falls.
It's literally where his hammer fell.
And no one can move it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so
no
brilliant.
one is worthy yet.
Well, that's because I'm not there.
Exactly. Exactly. You're
Or
gonna pick it up.
Pim's and God, I mean, I just thought
Yay.
Yeah, you pick that up and then you'd be like Hemsworth ripped, like, oh, I am the
Australian
mighty
thing.
Maud. And it's an Australian thing?
Yeah.
What? To be able to lift the hammer?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Can we
love
talk
it.
about Hulk though? I mean, we
Yes.
need to get into the Hulk, like
Yeah.
inbred Hulk grandchildren.
Did you guys hear? Ding, 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 every time they came into the comic? I did.
It
This
was
for comic book fans, very controversial because
Yes.
Mark Miller said, "Oh, Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk, becomes so evil, becomes so monstrous." He had one line where Banner said, "Oh, people are saying that the radioactivity in my brain got to my brain and infected it." That's sort of the explanation. That this character ends up essentially raping his cousin, She-Hulk, Jennifer
yeah.
Walters.
There's no one else that could take it.
Their
Ugh!
first,
I know.
yes.
That
No one else
line
could- what
was-
is, like, it's awful. It is.
Just go in the corner and just run
So
out. Like,
just
don't-
so
Oh.
good. Especially because I mean there was also like a hint after that scene where Hulk said, "Oh, we're just going to go down to Hef's place," which I think was a reference to the Playboy Mansion.
So do I.
And just like get some more women and then we'll keep making more Hulk. So like did they have to do the? They didn't have to do the cousin thing, but
But a lot of folks, at least in pop culture, I don't know any in real life,
yes.
but don't have to do that, but do it for weird, sick
Absolutely.
gene,
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
continuing
And-
the
and
line
Narcissistic.
reasons.
You know, I
Pure
think
breeding.
people
Blah.
forget that
Oh,
Hulk.
Targaryens. No, wait.
What's that?
Yeah,
Who?
Targaryens.
Targaryens.
Targaryens?
Yes, the Targaryen family would only breed with each
Oh.
other. To
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
Game
keep-
of Thrones, gross. They said Togorians. I'm like, from Star Wars? What? No. The Targaryens. Okay. But yeah, but to a lot of people, Hulk, it can be very villainous, that character. And to Mark Miller especially, I had a chance to talk to him, and we'll show that here in a little bit, but he mentioned that when he was a kid, one of his first comics he remembers was Hulk in a cave and then Wolverine fighting Hulk and clawing into him. And Wolverine's first appearance was in the Incredible Hulk number 181 in like 1973 or something. Like Wolverine and Hulk have this history. So for him to kind of cycle back and make him this villain, this monstrous thing, to Mark that kind of makes sense. And that's how he's more interested in the monstrous aspect of the Hulk character as opposed to he ate him.
Yeah,
he fucking ate him.
They eat.
Yeah.
They eat
So
Eat people.
you know what the Hulks, especially at the end, the like bulbous, disgusting. The hills have eyes.
Yeah. I got that vibe for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
They're hidden in the sort of western Arizona, California vibe. They're
Desolate
hiding,
desert,
in
yeah.
the desert. They're breeding with each other. There's something deeply wrong with them.
Super sadistic,
Really,
murderous.
just disgusting, just so gross. And The Hills Have Eyes is both very good
Yes.
and very disturbing,
Yeah.
and has that same sort of like, inappropriate touching of all sorts that's very upsetting, and they just reminded me of that a lot.
That's not fun.
Hillbilly Hulklings. I mean, yeah, that's what they were going for, and
Yeah.
I think it absolutely paid off. We mentioned this before the show started rolling, but I want to just head back to Red Skull for a second.
Yeah.
I want to take it to a place in the book as well when
Okay,
you're
great.
done.
Okay, great. I love the Red Skull moment. I love that it's very 1984 that Hawkeye meets his demise. That there is no secret resistance. There's no group of people that want to make a bunch of Captain Americas. It's all 1984.
At least it was quick.
At least it was
I
quick.
know.
But the flashback of, what's happening the night of, and the Red Skull, who is the ultimate embodiment of evil and racism and a Nazi, who defeats his arch nemesis Captain America on the hills of the Capitol. People have picked up, this is not the Captain America we know and love. This isn't Steve Rogers' Cap, who is blonde with blue eyes, but rather this is an amber-eyed gentleman. This is Bucky. This is Bucky Barnes when he
what
takes
the
over the
fuck?
role of Captain America. So along with Thor maybe coming back or somebody else being worthy to pick up the hammer, along with the hint of Reed and Sue, two members of the Fantastic Four, they
they're
say,
AWOL. Oh, yeah,
they ask
they
where
say,
they are,
we know
yeah.
what happened to Johnny and Ben. We know what happened to the Thing and the Human Torch.
You saw a thing in the ground.
You saw Thing in the
Yeah.
ground, but these two, we don't know what happened to them. A time-traveling villain apparently put them somewhere. And
Do you know what
Cool.
this tells the children and comic book readers? Got to marry up. You don't have someone, you're dead. You don't know what love is.
yeah.
It's not worth living.
Don't know what love is. I love the Red Skull moment because the Red Skull, as this old man, is defeated by the Shield. That in the trophy room, Wolverine, who again was an Avenger and he was in that superhero world, picks up the Shield
like,
when Red Skull goes, no, as he has this flash of his arch enemy, and he goes, you don't have the guts, and he decapitates him with
Yeah.
it. One of my favorite moments, and for him to grab the Iron Man armor and know the Avengers security password from 50 years prior to be able to fly him home, I loved it so much.
That was a good fan moment.
Such a great fan moment and such a great character moment for Wolverine because
his suit,
yes,
what a
his skin,
fucker.
his
But
skin,
he even
yeah,
addresses that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
really,
ultimate-
really great. What was the moment you wanted to talk about?
So
Maude?
in quickest intro and worst death award goes to Punisher and Daredevil. So they
Yeah.
have been captured. They are one of the few remaining left out here in the Kingpin territory. Don't think that didn't go by me. And they are chained and they get eliminated by two velociraptors.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
It's not pretty.
I love it. This was a scene that
Very down.
it made me. I don't know if they're good guys or bad guys, because we find afterwards that their ally, Spider Girl or Spider Woman, she was just planning to take over Kingpin's territory and not be a superhero and
Who's
dethrone
more
him.
evil at this stage?
Yeah, and
Exactly.
also
Less evil.
these are people taking up the mantle,
Yes.
correct? It's not
Yes.
actually them. Yeah,
They're young
so-
kids. They're friends of Spider Girl.
Yeah.
And she's probably like, I've got powers. Come with me, you two dudes. And they might not even have superpowers. And they're like, okay, we'll be Daredevil and Punisher. And then that's why they get taken out.
And they get eaten by.
Why are there dinosaurs? I know they
Yes.
kind of,
Yeah,
when
can
I
you-
read a little bit, they're like, oh, we've got the technology to bring and breed dinosaurs, so let's do it.
I think it's just because it's cool.
Wouldn't you?
Well, I have recurring nightmares about velociraptors.
Oh, right, that's true.
I'd probably let that one slide.
I think it's Mark having fun with the vast Marvel universe. There's lots of concepts in Marvel Comics, and one of them is something called the Savage Land, which is this little section of land in Antarctica that is surrounded by volcanoes, which makes it tropical. And in Marvel Comics, they say that in this little section of Antarctica, the dinosaurs never went extinct. So they've been there since they've been able to, repopulate and be there
They
since.
were hulking.
Yes, exactly. So at one point they say, oh, somebody grabbed Savage Land transplants and just brought them because rich people thought it was cool that they could bring dinosaurs from this little strip of area, and then they got
life finds a way.
away. Exactly. And then that Venom moment, I think all of that is just Mark going, this is cool. I think that's all it really is.
I thought that was really clever with the Venom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
movement.
And to have Black Bolt come out, stop that little,
Oh,
yeah.
I loved it. It was
Oh.
a huge speech bubble
Yes.
and a tiny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who
Just
he is though.
spooked the venom right out of
Yeah.
him.
He's one of my favorites. He's a comic
me
book
about
character
him.
named Blackagar Boltagon. and his shortened is Black Bolt. He's the leader of the Inhumans. He's going to be on the Inhumans TV show that comes out later this year. And his power is his voice is that powerful. He cannot say anything. So his wife speaks for him, and they're a king and queen. They're trying to do like a Game of Thrones.
Cool.
They're trying to do a Game of Thrones, but his wife is also
reversal.
his first cousin. So it's a little. That's actually very Game of Thronesy. It's a little gross. Yeah.
Expand your horizons, heroes.
Well, they were an isolated
More
race
people out there.
and a royal family. They kept trying to stay in the royal family. But yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we have to talk about what happens to Wolverine.
Wait, January
Okay.
Jones. Frost. What's her name?
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
Frost.
Emma Frost.
Emma Frost. She's who I would cosplay.
Ah,
Oh
yes.
yeah, you'd make
I look at her and I'm like,
amazing Emma Frost.
Yeah, January Jones.
Was a terrible actress. Oh my god, that was
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
I am Emma. I can read, and I'm a psychic.
She's really great in other things. I don't
Yes,
know
she
what
is.
happened with that.
Last Man on Earth.
Last Man on Earth.
Oh, I love
She's
her
fun
on
in
Last
that.
Man on Earth.
But Emma Frost is a Brit. She is English, and she's not an American. And every time I read Emma Frost, I hear an English accent.
You have to cosplay as her with this blue
The
lipstick,
blue
dude.
lipstick. Am I right?
Oh my
Yeah.
And I
god.
can do that. And I've got white lashes.
I would do
But I think it's kind of cool. She's the most powerful psychic in the world.
Yeah, because Charles Xavier's dead. All these other characters. Yeah.
And she's illusioning herself to look young and beautiful. Hollywood, am I right? But it sounds like she's got her own little
Yeah.
sanctuary
Yeah.
here.
That
But
she
we
made-
don't
she
know
made
what it
deals.
actually looks like. I mean, it could just be
I know.
like a bunker, you know?
And at this stage, I think it exactly is that. Yeah, I don't think anything is what it really looks like.
But
Yeah.
it looks cool.
We see some of those concepts revisited in the miniseries Old Man Logan, Secret Wars, War Zones. This was not written by Mark Miller, but his friend, Brian Michael Bendis. And they revisit a lot of similar concepts. The art's different, but that's Emma right there.
Hey,
and we
well.
even get to see what she actually looks like.
I've seen Game of Thrones as well. You remove the necklace.
Yep. So you,
There's no such thing as a unique idea.
it's a little, she's
true.
she's
There's
seen
a
better
lot
days.
in here.
Seen better days. But let's talk about that. What happens on the night the heroes fell.
Yeah, this was
yeah.
deeply sad.
Yeah.
That got me, guys. Got me.
I mean, and the art in this is devastating. We were talking a bit about the violence before it started, and I love horror movies. I love practical effects, so I really appreciated this sort of very distressing, violent imagery in this. Because I think it's really impactful for the story to see these amazing heroes who are so strong
Yeah.
reduced to bones
And shot in the head and,
yeah,
you know.
and just gone. But
Yeah.
so he tells the story again. This reminded me of the gunslinger. He sits down to tell what happened
Reflection.
before. It's all of the sort of structure of this is just so Western, and so there are all these distress calls. I love the sort of after all of the sort of bleak. Brown and red.
Yes,
you have the
it's
bright
colorful.
purple and the colorful. It looks like the X-Men TV show that I
Yeah.
loved growing up. And Jubilee says we're getting all these distress calls. The Avengers,
Yep.
Wakanda,
going
Shield, Fantastic Four. I don't know what's going on, and all of these villains pop up and
He's
show
gotta get
up.
'em.
And they say, you know, this is the big one. We finally gathered together. We're all showing up. You see, okay, so let's go through some of these and tell me who everyone.
Oh, the bad guys?
Yeah.
Oh, here.
Sure. So right
so I
here,
recognize like Magneto, obviously, and Doc Ock.
there's no Magneto there. That's
What
not
is that?
Magneto. That's
That's-
Strife.
Who's the one that looks like a toilet that
That's-
won't flush down the...
This
giant turd.
is Ulysses Claw. He's the archenemy of Black Panther.
Okay.
This is Strife. He is a clone of Cable. Who Cable is the 60-year-old son of Cyclops, who was raised in the future. Yeah, very complicated.
I know
That's the
Cable.
Shocker. He's going to be in the new Spider-Man movie. Nope, Mod, not that. This is a. I'm now trying to think of more sexual position jokes to just say. This is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. This is Mr. Hyde right here.
That's who I was talking
Kind
about.
of. This is obviously Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Other bad guys that we see are
Couple pop in.
the
right there.
Absorbing Man, Crusher Creel, Bullseye, enemy of Daredevil, and I think that's the Titanium Man. I think he's an Iron Man villain.
Is that Blob there?
That's
In the
Blob,
white bit?
yes. Fred
yes.
J. Dukes. This is the Silver Samurai. This is
It's holding
Scorpion.
a lightsaber, but that's fine.
And
down
then
the
we've
bottom,
got-
down the bottom. Sorry, that's Hobgoblin.
Oh, wait.
Or is
Down
that
those two little ones in the corner.
these?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the Green Goblin and
Yeah.
Mr. Sinister, it looks
Green
like. Thank you. The
Goblin.
Green Goblin.
Yep.
That's
Different
the
from-
Osborn.
Not to be confused with the Hobgoblin. There's a bunch
Sorry,
of there's a bunch of
Dungeons and
goblins.
Dragons only in here.
Yep, that's the Green Goblin again, and I think that this is God. I want to say it's Trapster. He's one of the Frightful Four, I think. His original name used to be Paste Pot Pete.
They
He's a
need
real
to
shit
not all
villain.
have Magneto helmets. is
They
the
all
thing.
have Magneto helmets.
Sabretooth.
Yeah. Sabretooth is in there, Omega Red. Then you start to kind of blend in with more of like Wolverine villains, Lady Deathstrike. These are all villains that have it out for Logan specifically. And then this brutal, I mean, the violence in this is just horrifying.
So
and it cuts away, of course, to
So he
Mysterio.
thinks, and as it was building before throughout the different issues, you see him, and just the way he's carrying himself in the flashbacks to kind of the aftermath is just so defeated. And I kept thinking like, oh no, they're gonna. He was somehow. It's his fault. And I thought maybe it was like that he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Or they, and so I was kind of putting it together, and then we get to realizing that, and it shows him brutally attacking all of these villains. You see them
Defending the kids.
This guy doesn't have a head.
Yeah, that's
His
Havoc. That's
Havoc's
Cyclops'
head's
brother.
gone.
there, it's brutal, and you see just everyone's, and we were talking, you mentioned everyone's faces of pain and shock,
Yeah.
and the kids are running, and you think that they're running away, but really they're trying to defend them until you get to the realization that Bullseye is not Bullseye, he's Captain America, and he says, Logan, stop, please, why are you doing this? You're supposed to be our friend.
Oh no, that's Jubilee, isn't it?
This one?
Yeah.
Isn't that
Jubilee's
That's
the last one.
Bullseye. That's the bad guy he'd been fighting with the whole time.
And then
Yeah,
flip a
so
page?
isn't
Flip a
it?
page?
Oh, I thought it was okay. I thought it was Captain America. I was like, holy shit.
Mysterio's that good.
Yeah. It's
And
so
he's just
sad.
like, thanks for that, bye.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
he's
like,
like,
you
"I'm
arrogant.
sorry.
Mysterio's never been more threatening. He's otherwise a crap Spider-Man villain. Yeah.
And then you just see all of the
They're broken.
X-Men, and it's just the most devastating
Yeah.
thing. And this shot of him crying
Yeah.
sad.
It's
when
so
he
great.
reflects back on trying to kill himself with a train.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got to tell you guys something. Writer Mark Miller, when he was a kid, growing up in the 70s and 80s, his older brother, when he was like 8 or something, his older brother, who was college age, like 19, told him that all superheroes were real, and he believed it. He's loved comics since he was 4, and this is part of the reason. I think he's maybe 5 or 6 when he was told this. And then Mark, as a 5-year-old, asked, well, where'd all the superheroes go of our world? And he said, his older brother said, all the villains got together one night, killed all the superheroes, and wiped everybody on Earth's memory so that we don't remember superheroes anymore. And that traumatized Mark.
yeah,
It
clearly.
obviously made its way into this book. That's also part of the premise for Wanted, which he does a similar thing. And in the Wanted comic book, he basically explores that idea and also reveals that actors Christopher Reeve, Linda Carter, and Adam West were in fact Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, but their minds were erased to think they were actors. Superman's mind was erased to make him think he was in a wheelchair. It's when he's actually Superman, but thought he was just an actor who was hurt in an accident. Brutal. So I had a chance to talk with Mark Miller.
Yeah.
And I brought this up. I had a chance to talk to him today, and he was an awesome guy. So let's check out this little interview that I had with him earlier today. Check it out.
Yay.
Hey guys, Hector here from Alpha Book Club. Joining me, our first ever comic book writer, as we talk about the first ever comic that we're tackling on Alpha Book Club, Wolverine, Old Man Logan. Mark Miller is here. Mark, thank you so much for calling in. This is a real treat. This is really exciting.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So let's just get right into it. First question, right off the bat, Mark. Where did the idea for Old Man Logan come from?
It came from a sketch I did back in like 2008 or something, probably about 10 years ago now. And I doodle everything before I start writing anything, you know. So what I did was I drew a picture of Wolverine, and he looked really old, and it was just a kind of bad drawing. And then I thought it looked kind of interesting, and he looked a little bit like Clint Eastwood, which is kind of who Wolverine was based on, you know, the man with no name and everything. And I just kept drawing, and I drew this kind of post-nuclear landscape that he was in. He looked like he was on some kind of like desolate farm and everything. And the story kind of grew out of there, and I thought, well, we'd already seen the kind of young Wolverine, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to do the Unforgiven version of Wolverine, really, you know, and I just do it as a Western. And that's what all happened, came from a doodle.
That's fantastic. Now, I've heard you talk a little bit about this before, but can you tell us about that traumatic incident in your childhood where your older brother told you that all of the superheroes of the world were dead? Did any of that influence the sort of backstory of Old Man Logan? I mean, we saw a little bit of that in Wanted, which is brilliant, but tell us about how did that happen? How did your older brother tell you that and you believed it? You poor kid.
Well, what was amazing is like my brother told me that superheroes were real, so that was cool, right? That's great. And I was maybe 4, I think, at the time. I was around about 4, and I just thought that's fantastic. You know, like there's Davy Crockett, there's Eisenhower, you know, there's all these things in American history, you know, and
Yeah.
like and Superman is just part of American history, you know. And then I said to my brothers, "Is Superman still around just now? Batman still around just now?" And they said, "No, no, no. They were all killed in a big thing years back." And I was really quite devastated by this because I love these guys. And he said, "Yeah, they're all gone now." And like I say, I was maybe 4 or 5 by this point, and my brother was at university doing his doctorate. You know, so I mean, he should have known better. It's not like he was 9 years old; he was like 19 by this point.
What a bastard. That is so funny. That's hilarious. That's so great. Let's get it.
Origin, because like every story I've ever done seems to relate back to this somehow. I think, you know?
Very traumatic, very traumatic. But you made it work for your career, which is so great. Let's get into some of the controversy. Mark, how much did you take any heat for what you decided to do with the Hulks in this story, in this future storyline?
No, not at all. No, it makes perfect sense. You know, so like, I mean, the Hulk to me, it's always about the monstrous id of somebody who's a wonderful human being. Like Bruce Banner is a nice guy, you know, but the Hulk is the worst representation of what he could be. So the idea of him just degenerating, the radioactivity degenerating his brain, and he just lives like a hillbilly out in the sticks, you know, and just he and his cousin are making little baby Hulks, you know. It just seems sort of like a horrific ending to that monstrous id story that is the Hulk.
Oh, it's true. And I mean, Wolverine started with the Hulk. That was his first appearance. And so there's this great sort of closing that full circle, which is great.
Well, one of the very first comics I ever got is a thing that most of you American guys would never have seen, which was we used to get black and white versions here in Scotland of the comics you got in America, you know, a couple of years later. So one of my first comics had the Hulk being slashed by Wolverine as he's coming out of a cave. So I hadn't even thought about it, but essentially that's what happens at the end of Old Man Logan in reverse, you know, where they go into the Hulk's cave where he's living. And it just seems like a nice piece of symmetry, I guess, you know, to where it all began to. So I didn't plan this. This is actually quite accidental now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's great. Mark, did you ever plan to tell? Because again, people may have forgotten the first time we see some of these characters were in your brilliant Fantastic Four run, which was so great. It's the first time we see some of these characters. Did you ever plan on doing a follow-up where we have the heroes return, maybe a new Thor, Reed and Sue, Steve Rogers possibly coming back? Did you ever plan to do anything with that?
Absolutely, yeah. I had a sequel planned. I actually have it all completely plotted. And like my plan was to give it a couple of years, and I just never got around to it. Like it sold so well. I mean, the Old Man Logan book I think is the best-selling Wolverine ever graphic novel.
Yeah.
And did really well as a monthly and everything. So it was always very attractive to go back and do it, and I loved doing the story. But around the same time, Kick-Ass came out, and Kick-Ass did really, really well, and it became a couple of movies and all that kind of stuff. And it just took up my time instead, and I went off and did Middle Worlds and did Creator Roads. But I have a great sequel to Old Man Logan that can never be done because there's been all the subsequent Old Man Logan volumes.
Yeah, how did you react when you found out that Marvel was going to use a version of the character in their Secret Wars storyline? You had Brian Michael Bendis writing a miniseries, and that there's a version of him right now sort of in the Marvel Universe. After the death of Wolverine, they're bringing him back. How did you respond to that?
Do you know, I'm fine with it. You know, like Brian's a good friend of mine, and Brian and I have been pals since we met in summer 2000, and we were both these young guys brought into Marvel to try and do something when it was in this mess. So, I mean, I love Brian, and if anyone was going to do it, I'd love it to be Brian. And Marvel were very cool about it. They said to me about 3 or 4 times, "Are you going to do this sequel?" And I was like, I don't know, I don't think so, I don't think I have time. And then they said, "How would you feel about Brian doing it?" And I was like, "That's awesome, that's great, you know, because it's going to be good and it saves me doing it. That's perfect."
That's very nice, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about the movies. You've actually had there's been a couple films inspired by your Marvel work recently. We're talking Logan, even Captain America Civil War. How involved were you with Logan, if anything, and how did you feel about those movies and then sort of drawing inspiration from both of those classic Marvel storylines?
I think my first sort of taste of it was a few years back when I started seeing things like the Hulk movie would have little moments from the Ultimates book that we did. You know, this was the reinvention of the Avengers, and then they obviously used a lot of that stuff in the first Captain America movie and in the Avengers movie as well, which was just really exciting. You know, I mean, I saw this stuff up on the walls inside the Marvel Studios places out in LA. You know, when I was out consulting on the first Iron Man. And they just had all these Brian Hitch Ultimates pages around, and they were sort of mapping out scenes and everything. And I thought, this is awesome. This is really cool. Because just as a fanboy, it's lovely. Like when I write a story, I'm delighted to see it become a comic. And then it's even more exciting to see it hit that mass audience, because 100,000 people maybe read Ultimates, but to hit the millions, you know, through the Avengers was amazing. And then they told me then on set that the plan was to do Civil War eventually. And I was like, awesome, can't wait, you know. And I know, I mean, I've done a lot of work with Fox over the years, and I knew that, you know, Old Man Logan had been planned for a while. Like Hugh Jackman actually announced that a couple of years back, they were going to do this older Wolverine story and everything, and they fused it together with that X-23 story, and James Mangold came in and did some amazing new things himself and everything. It was great, you know. I mean, as a comic writer, it's the ultimate flattering thing, isn't it? You know, to see your work being transferred into other mediums and being employed in some other way. And just as a fan, I love it. Like, there's nothing more exciting than going down to my local cinema and seeing something that on some level connects to something I did. I mean, this is what I dreamed when I was 5, you know. I'm so lucky.
Absolutely, yeah. That's so cool. You worked with Steve McNevin on, we're talking about Civil War even. You worked with him previously before you guys collaborated on Old Man Logan. What was it like for you to get some of those first Wolverine pages back from Steve? Do you remember that? Do you remember what that feeling was like?
Very clearly. I can remember the first 3 pages he sent them together. It was the double page spread, and it was the image of Wolverine just like he'd done something terrible to his friends, you know, which was the Westchester incident sort of in the movie, you know, this terrible thing that's happened to the X-Men. And that was the opening page, and I just saw this, and it's this kind of bedraggled Wolverine just walking away from Westchester. And I just thought, this is going to be good. Because you never know, don't you? When you write a story, you think, I hope people like this, I hope it's going to be good. But when you work with guys like McNevin and all that, you know, they elevate your game. You know, when you work with Brian Hitch or Greg Capullo or Frank Quitely or any of these guys I'm lucky enough to work with, even a bad story can look amazing, you know. So, like, you know, so I think that's the secret.
Absolutely, yeah. Looking back now, all these years later, looking back on Wolverine Old Man Logan, Mark, what is the thing that you're most proud of?
I think my dream, right, as a kid starting out, when I was a teenager starting out working in comics, was to try and do an iconic story for all the characters I loved. So I did Superman Red Sun, and I did the Ultimates for the Avengers, and Wolverine I think I've done a couple. Enemy of the State was good, and Old Man Logan was one of those. And I think that's what I'm proud of, you know, that I would hope that when somebody comes into a comic store in 20 years or whatever and says, could you recommend a Wolverine story? They could say, well, check out Old Man Logan. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. Here it is in one book, you know? And that was the comics I loved as a kid. I mean, when I was at school, Dark Knight Returns was out there and Batman Year One. And it was amazing just to have a classic Batman story all told in one book. And I'd love to do that maybe at some point in the future, go and do, you know, a great Wonder Woman story, or go and do a great Green Lantern story or something. I'd love to do the definitive story for each character. If I have any plan for my life, I guess that's maybe it.
Yeah. I would really, really like to read all of those, Mark. So please, if you could get on that ASAP, that would be fantastic. Mark, huge thanks for calling in. This was such a treat. This was so cool. And thank you again for all of your work just as a fan. This is just, it's been so cool to read all of your stuff throughout the years, your indie stuff, even your superhero stuff. It's all fantastic. So thank you again, Mark. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
And we're back.
Oh, spoiler alert.
We're back. So guys, what did you think of Wolverine Old Man Logan? Let's get some sort of wrap up, sort of final thoughts on the book.
Words.
Loved it. Want a list. I'm gonna take some advice from the chat as well, but I want some stories to read. I'm in the middle of, you know, I like to read multiple things at once.
Yes.
So this is a good one to have when I'm reading something longer, but I loved it, and I'd love to do more graphic novels on the show at some point.
Would you recommend this to somebody else?
Yes, I'm actually lending it to Matt Grossinger, our music editor, after this, because he was talking about it, and my boyfriend, who's a huge Wolverine fan, but like sort of classic and different versions, hasn't read this one, so I'm gonna yell at him about that.
I can't wait to see what he thinks about it. Yeah.
I'm going to probably stick with books.
Oh, no!
Because that's what I like. But I do have a Comixology account. So again, with any recommendations, if there's something that you think that I would absolutely enjoy, I'm not against going there. I just think $4 to flip 12 pages is a little, you know, on the whole, Star Wars, man. It's like 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
Broke.
That's why you got to get. I'll send you some links so you can get some cheap books, because it's tough. It's tough to sometimes justify the $4, you know, for 22 pages. But like this thing is what, $16.99 or something on the back. That's the retail price. But I can send you some links where you can find it a little bit.
You want to try?
$24.99.
Keep going. That'd be a $30 book.
$29.99.
This is.
It's honestly worth every penny, but I can send you some links where it's less than that. Did you guys listen to any music while you're reading this?
I'm on a plane.
Gosh, you could
don't-
you can have a separate iPod.
If I have images and text,
Yeah.
I definitely can't
Oh,
have music.
man.
I need to focus.
I listened to the Logan soundtrack. It was dope. It worked really well.
After
It
I
worked
see
really
it
well.
this weekend,
Okay.
which I am gonna do, I'm finally
Okay.
gonna emerge from my cave and go see a movie. I'll play the score and flip through
That's
this
awesome.
again and get the vibe.
But
Me-
had I been equipped with a little bit more comic book knowledge, I think
Yeah.
I would have had more ooh-ah moments. But because I have kind of like your base, I know all the hero movies. I
Sure.
used to watch X-Men, the cartoons.
Sure.
Like I've got, enough knowledge to kind of get through it and not be like, I'm lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I do get it, but that little extra
Okay.
nuggets
It's-
would help.
It's always fun to revisit. You know what you should do is just go become an expert on Marvel Comics and then reread this again in 10 years. And then you'll be like, oh, I know all of these
I'll let you
things.
know how
Get
it
a
And it'll make
degree.
it a little bit better. So
goes. Worth
really
it.
worth it. I had such a great time rereading this. I think there was stuff that that I forgot from the first time that I read it. Stuff that was a little bit more for me reading it this time as an adult. As you get older and you kind of you mature or whatever, just have different tastes. But more stuff that I loved. That scene with him and Clint when he's telling him what happened to him and he's crying in the bar and the guy comes up and makes fun of him and then he goes, go ahead and do it again, and puts his hand right here, and I was like, I love that scene. I thought that was a fantastic scene. If you guys liked today's show, would you guys be interested in a spin-off maybe to do like an Alpha Comic Book Club? ABCB? ACBC? ACBC is the
Like
anagram?
a band.
Like the band ACBC. Yes, absolutely. Let us know in the comments, you guys. Let us know how much you like this thing. And speaking of letting us know, we threw up a poll for you guys to determine our next month's book. Not a comic book, but a regular
Regular ass book.
And the polls have closed.
Yes.
So now let's check to see who won between American Gods, Jurassic Park, and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Is
Yes.
I think the one we're going to go to.
Philosopher's Stone?
The Philosopher's Stone. Let's see what the winner is. It
Whoa.
looks like it's American Gods. Yes.
Wait, who
Yes.
that runs Alpha voted for Harry Potter? Need to have a little word. I thought we.
Caught.
Caught.
Y'all were spotted. We got you.
I would have been down to read any of these, but
too.
American Gods is going to be a bunch of fun. So
Timing wise, I'm really excited for this.
Yes.
timing. Yeah, I finally saw the trailer for the show. It looks insane. It
You
looks so
guys.
good.
It's gonna be so good. It
Yeah.
premieres at the end of the month. So right when we wrap up, we'll
Cool.
get to watch the show, which
Cool.
I think will probably only be a part of the first part of the,
Oh,
like
this is the
we'll
trailer.
see what the
That guy was
pacing
in
is.
the 100. The
Yeah.
100
Yeah.
trailer was watched.
Oh, it just
Yeah,
it looks-
Ricky. Yeah, he's the
Lincoln.
lead.
Oh, good. I like
And
him.
everything I've seen so far
Yeah.
He's great.
is perfect. It's perfect. And
That's
it's
a lot of
Brian
blood.
Fuller. The
Yes.
book is so weird
lot of blood.
and wonderful. And then Brian Fuller
Yeah.
is adapting it, so it is super, super,
Well,
super
that little
intense.
buffalo had fire coming out of its eyes.
Yeah,
and she
man.
hasn't got an arm, does she?
She was holding onto her own arm. Visually,
Oh.
it just looks stunning.
What's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah,
I need.
that's what we're about to
one.
read. Yeah.
I'm so excited. It's going to be super great.
So your guys' homework is to go get American Gods digitally or in a store, and you got to read up to the end of chapter 6. So stop right at the beginning of 7. Stop right at the beginning of 7. And the most recent edition, which is the 10th anniversary. Neil Gaiman's been around the block. He's done this for a while.
And that has, it's slightly different. So you do want to get that version because there are portions that are added that
Okay, cool.
are supposedly going to be incorporated into the show.
Hold
The
on, it's the
10th
newest 10th
anniversary. 10th anniversary.
Got it.
That's what we're looking for. That's what
Yeah.
we're looking for. So guys, we're also on Goodreads. So search Alpha Book Club with in Goodreads, and then come and discuss with us and send us your recommendations to Nerdist, Geek and Sundry, or Join Team Alpha. All of those on Twitter at Nerdist, at Geek and Sundry, at Join Team Alpha with the hashtag Alpha Book Club. Let us know what we're going to be reading after American Gods. And huge thanks to everybody for letting us do a comic book. I'm so
Yes,
stoked.
I love
It has
seeing
been
really
your
fun.
happy
fun.
place.
Such a great time.
so
We should
happy.
do more. It was a lot of fun. So stick around for Choose Your Destiny. And coming up next, after that, the next episode of Crafting Comics with Jim Higgins. It is at 8 p.m. right here on Alpha. See you guys next time.
Mysterio
Bye.
wants us to sing the comic book theme.
What's the comic book theme?
Cartoon. Cartoon.
Da-na-na-na-na.
Da-na.
Da-na. Da-na-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na. Bye. Da-na-na-na-na. Da-na.